We are living in a moment where violence against men and women who happen to be trans is at an all-time high. Not only is violence against these Americans increasing, but so too is the negative rhetoric and the criminalization of their very existence happening right before our eyes. We are living in a time when people are talking about genocides happening around the world, when in my opinion, we have a certain specific type of targeted genocide being attempted to start right here in America. And it is a genocide against our trans brothers and sisters. Why is it that Americans hate people who are trans?
I think it's unfortunate because there's less than 1% of the population that actually identifies as trans. I think Republicans specifically take an opportunity to create these culture wars, which I, to this day, don't understand. Because if you're really thinking about it, it's not a winning issue. Like, it's really not. CRT is not a winning issue. Trans bans are not an issue. Like, don't say gay bills are not an issue. Like, these on a national level. They could pass in Florida, but they're not going to be on a national level something that's popular. I mean, we see that with Republican policies day in and day out. When you see 2023, these past elections, you have these anti-abortion legislation that gets on the referendums, and they consistently lose. They're 8-0 right now. So as it relates to trans people and their struggle and their plight, I think that from a legislation perspective and from a Republican Party and political party perspective, it's not a winning issue. I think it's unfortunate that as a society, we haven't gotten to a place where we can discuss this in a way that gets them more rights. I mean, unfortunately, we still see some of these stories go viral where you see Black trans women that get beat up by groups of straight and heterosexual other men. And, they are not protected, unfortunately. And I think it's unfortunate. I don't know what we could do.
I think the argument, Brian, that it is a losing issue is minimizing the power of the Republican Party. That is something I've always thought about. It's minimizing their power. Let me explain. Yeah, they're 0 for 8 today. But will they be 0 and 8 in 20 years? Republicans are masterful at playing the long game, and they sow seeds that grow and grow and grow. Right now, I believe that the Republican Party is making the modern day villain trans people. They, in the civil rights era, the villain was black people. Mm-hmm. It was a black man going to come and take the white woman from the white family. That was a villain, and they villainized black men, and it was a whole entire movement among society to villainize black men, to give black men certain types of roles in Hollywood, certain types of depictions on television, certain types of depictions in music, to infiltrate certain communities with certain types of resources, drugs, to ensure that the black man will always be the villain to society. They've moved from the black man because now they need the black man to vote Republican, and they've made it the trans woman. That is now the villain of the Republican Party. This is the beginning. It's in the infancy stages of their strategy. So right now, no, it's not popular. It's not going to work right now. But they know that they're only trying to use the anti-trans sentiment to get fringe people from around certain communities that are loyal to the Democratic Party to defect from the Democratic Party, to come over and vote Republican, or to not vote at all, because that will give them the wins they need. Because they're not trying to win on a ballot issue. They're trying to win seats. They're trying to win Senate seats. They're trying to win House of Representative seats. And then they're also, of course, trying to win the White House via the Electoral College. But within 20 years, what will we then feel about men and women who happen to be trans? They are taking small instances and they are making them hyper-focused and giving them hyper-attention that aren't even attention. The prime example is what they did with Dylan Mulvaney, a trans woman activist who really isn't even, I don't even think she wants to be an activist. She's really just an entertainer. She's really just a TikTok star who just simply documented her journey into becoming a woman, and she simply got a package from Bud Light, a package. It wasn't even a national commercial. It wasn't a national campaign. And conservative media and Republicans made this one of the biggest, most defining issues of 2023. Not caring about her, not caring about the impact on, the dangers that trans Americans face as a whole, because they were using it for their agenda, and it was exceptionally effective. Bud Light stock fell. Bud Light sales have dropped. It still hasn't recovered. And that illustrates the power of the strategy. We think it's about winning an election, but it's about the long game, I think, for Republicans, and it's very concerning to me. It's scary.
Yeah. Well, they consistently understand the use and demonstrate the understanding of and mastering of incremental change. And that's what I consistently tell people that are on the Democrat side, that people don't understand that shit. A lot of people always want to do change overnight, and it doesn't happen that way. And the reality of it is, the bigger question is this: yes, trans rights. We need to use our platforms to uplift other trans activists like Hope Giselle and T.S. Madison
and Dominique Morgan,
who's an Atlanta staple, right? Like, yes,
T.S. Madison talked about them women's kids. I don't know about
that. Right. Well, but the reality is, we need to continue to uplift trans activists and the work that they're doing, and continue to put them out. Like, T.S. Madison has broken some records and making sure that she's making some strides. Like, she's in Hollywood, she's making videos, she's like movies, like Bros. I don't know who watched the movie. I actually enjoyed the movie because I do love me some
movies.
Bros.
Oh.
Well, also those.
I didn't see that.
Also those, bigdickbitch.com. I don't know if we can say that on But here's what I will say. That the bigger question is this: yes, understanding the trans plight. But the other question is, what do we do about understanding how we can actually create progress in society? That's the larger one, right? Because they understand incremental change in a way that I don't think that we do or want to buy into. So what do we do, Aaron? What do we do, Sir Ken, about understanding how to get to where we want to get to in society?
Brian, you're absolutely right. So one thing that we have to do is ensure greater visibility of our trans brothers and sisters in the L and the G and the B. So when we are and they need to be present, and they need to be also given a front and center stage, because fighting against transphobia starts in our own community. There are too many gay men who are transphobic, and that's our work to help them understand and break that down. That was the whole entire reason why for the when I held the Atlanta's Black Gay Pride showcase, I ensured that we had a number of performers involved who were women who just so happened to be trans, because it's important for people to see this community shine and see the best they bring to our world and how they contribute in the exact same way that people had to do for Black people when we were being marginalized and pushed outside of the boundaries of what was acceptable in America. We have to ensure that all people are given a seat at the table and made to feel welcome at the table. And then, to be honest about it, we have to do even more so when we have the means to do it. When you get to a certain financial position in your life, you have the responsibility of not only giving people seats at the table, but it's time for you to start buying people tables. You need to start making that a part of the priority, is that you're starting to invest in people that need the investment and who are going to use that investment for their platforms so that they can be better for their community. So it's time for us to also look at how do we take our financial resources and platform someone who happens to be trans so they can do the good work and speak to these issues that only they can speak to. That's our work.
I was going to say this. Trans people to America, I feel like trans people are like that part of yourself that you hate, but you see someone else shining it, right? And I feel like that's how America feels about trans people. So I feel like until we're able to get to a place where America can be like, okay, I'm comfortable and we can all coexist.
But why is it that Americans hate trans people? Like, why is that though? Why is it that?
I just told you.
But why?
Because they propel a part of themselves that's universal to American people that they try to keep within themselves that they don't like, and they see someone else being courageous enough to show that, and it makes them hate them for it. Remember, at the end of the day,
that trans people are being authentically who they are,
and who they are, and a lot of people aren't. And at the end of the day, you got to remember, we draw fear from anything we don't understand. We draw hatred from anything we don't understand. So instead of us taking the opportunity or the energy to try to understand it, we create hatred towards it. And I feel like that's what's going on with Americans and other countries that don't understand trans experience. It's just like the other day when Angelica Ross went on and did her parking lot. I forgot what it's called. You know what I'm saying?
The parking lot with, I think it's her name, Lene.
Lene,
the wonderful parking lot series on social media.
And she said this very thing. She said, we say Black Lives Matter, but we don't mean Black LGBTQI plus lives matter. But then we think about those people that are part of that community that were the lead way for the movement of the Black Lives Matter. we have to understand that they were part of the LGBTQ plus community. So when we get to a place where we can say all lives matter, and people don't want to hear the word cisgender, I quit.
You can't say all lives matter. I know it's not.
No, let him say it.
That's what he wants to say. That's
But
what
no.
he wants to say.
I was trying to say.
No, I know what you said.
I was not trying to say.
All lives not matter?
No, that's not what I was trying to say, baby. I was trying to say all Black lives matter.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm sorry. I was trying to say all Black lives matter. When we get to that point,
It's continue.
Well, no, to piggyback.
That's right.
What she was trying to say was, because I have a lot of straight friends.
You finna say the whole speech. But we get it.
But I want to hear what Aaron has to say. Aaron's about to say piggyback.
Thank you. What I was trying to say was, Angelica said this because I have a lot of straight female friends. They really get offended by the word cis, and they like, I don't want to be called cis.
They don't have to.
Stupid.
They don't have to be called cis. I don't. No, it's
That's because they stupid.
let me
No.
stupid.
Excuse me. Hold on. Let me just
I
say
was
this.
trying to tell you
Let me
what
just say
Angelica
this.
said.
Let me just say this. They stupid.
I don't agree.
No, I don't agree with stupidity. We're not going to say that. They're miseducated and misinformed.
I don't agree with that either.
They're ignorant. They're
Okay,
ignorant.
so you give your point.
They're ignorant to what cis stands for. Cis is a scientific term to talk about the biological.
It doesn't matter.
But they
But
feel
listen,
like,
but
I don't need an extra term.
But I also agree with the fact that if people do not want to identify as that, that is completely fine. And
Right.
that's
But
not what's
great.
stupid about it.
But
I
get
think
this.
what is ignorant about it is the fact that people don't understand the origination of it and think that it's a brand
Brian,
term when it
I
is
would
not.
have to disagree with you because I have taken the time to explain to my.
Yeah, I don't agree either.
I have taken.
I don't agree.
That's what it is.
Listen, I've
No, that's what it is, but I don't agree that.
But
here's
I
the
have
thing.
taken the time to explain to my heterosexual female friends of where it derived from and what it is. They still do not want to be called it. And what
That's fine.
okay.
But
And that's
listen,
fine.
But that's
That's
what I'm trying to get to my
They don't
point.
have to be called it,
But-
but that's what they are.
but this is
it's
what-
like, I
but-
don't want to be called a man, but I'm a man. I
But
don't want to
this
be
is the
called
point
a
that-
human, but I'm a
but
human.
this
You
is
are a
the-
cisgender
I don't-
man.
But
too.
this
You're
is
not
the-
only a man, you're
I am a
cisgender
cisgender man.
So you're a cis male, and so.
But if he
the
doesn't want to
point is-
But this is the point that
Listen,
Angelica was trying
I
to make.
believe that if someone is offended by a term, it is appropriate to pause the term.
Yes.
So
Yes.
when I hear that my Jewish friends are offended by Palestinian statements of freedom from the rivers to the sea, even if it is meant to be a rallying cry that is not calling for genocide or extermination of the Jewish state, I still believe it's not something I would say out of my mouth because they're offended by it.
But-
So if women who are biologically born female are offended by the term cis woman, I won't use the term. I don't have, because it's not
But that's
necessary.
exactly what
It's
Angelica.
an unnecessary dividing wedge. That's a woman is a woman is a woman.
woman is a woman.
I don't care if you were born a woman or if you were not born a woman, but you are a woman. You're a woman. A
And
woman is a
that's
woman is a woman.
exactly
It's an
what
adjective.
Angelica was trying to
It's just
say.
an adjective.
She
Yeah,
was
It's
saying.
just- but if you don't want me to say it, I'm not gonna say it.
Yeah.
But that's
Angelica
what you
Ross
are.
said
If
it
you're
best.
cis, you're cis.
That's
I
fine,
may
but I'm
not
not gonna
call
say
you.
it.
I
I'm
don't
not
have to
gonna
call
say
you that, but that's what you are.
Okay,
I'm not gonna say it.
That's fine. But what Angelica Ross was saying, but I was trying to get to it before we went, all other ways. She was saying that if you don't like being called cis, I will not call you cis.
Right.
But we need to learn to be able to coexist in a world as black people.
Yes.
Where we say Black Lives Matter, all Black Lives Matter. Well, I don't have to go around and say that I'm a trans woman. So she's saying if you don't want to be called cis, I won't call you cis.
me trans.
But I don't have to be called trans either because I'm a woman.
I agree with that too.
Yeah.
And we
Okay,
need
now,
to
Aaron, what were you
play.
gonna say?
I was gonna say I think men hate trans women because a lot of them are attracted to trans women, and it is a fair thing. I think they're afraid of their own sexual desires, and I think a lot of women don't like trans women because they view them as competition. It's a scarcity of good men.
I agree.
And women feel, I don't want to say they feel threatened, but I feel like they feel a ways that there's already a scarcity of good men. Then they're competing with other men because a lot of their men like men too.
They do.
And now they're competing with trans women and their men like trans women too. So I feel like that's why, I think that's a part of it, a small fraction of it.
I can give you a credit on a small fraction. I think it's really concerning
A fear of
because
self.
what This is what concerns me, is that the Black community is extremely understanding, and by nature of how Black people and brown people in this country operate, we operate from a place of community and communal love. It is a natural part of who we are. I can't say that about other cultures, because other cultures, for the most part, can be focused on the individual pursuit of success and their individual goals. But being a communal focused culture is a part of who we are. But we have a situation where society has miseducated and forced us to take a portion of our community and attempt to push them aside and ostracize them, and it's highly effective and it's working. That concerns me. This is not something that we've always seen in the Black community. When I was growing up, the marginalization of men and women who happen to be trans, because they are few in number, it wasn't this level of hatred and vitriol being directed at it. I am seeing social media inflame the hatred and inflame the rhetoric towards this community in a way that I have not seen in previous. We were making, in my opinion, significant strides and significant progress as a Black community towards greater love, but now we're going backwards. And I think that is the result of social media influence.
I think it's always existed. I think it's now more visible because of the advent of social media and the propagation of information and how fast it can spread. But Aaron, you were saying you disagree.
That we're communal?
Black people as a culture is a communal culture.
When you're a straight man, cis man, yeah. Black people, we rally around straight cis men. We don't rally around, and we rally around women too.
Yeah.
Straight
do we
cis
not?
women.
But do we
That's
not?
It. No, the Black community hates the LGBTQ.
You are absolutely
You may
right.
feel the hate.
I agree with him.
But let me say this.
I read it. I live it.
Lived it. I agree.
If you take this back to just look. I don't want to hear about I want to look at you. Look at you. I'm gonna look at me. I'm gonna give my own personal experience. Growing up, I was picked on, bullied, called, made fun of. But outside of that, if there was any attacks levied to me, my community was going to stand up for me.
No. Let me ask you.
They were going to have my back.
What was the guy that stood behind that helped Martin Luther King that was
Bayard Rustin, who is now the focus of a brand new film that's out now.
A new film now.
Watch over the holiday season.
Right. But why has there not been any light shunned upon this guy since the movement
they don't
of Martin
want
Luther
gay
King?
history in the schools.
Exactly.
They don't want. They don't
but not
want
even just in
just in
schools. What about
that
other
is
people?
Republicans? That's
but not just
in black people.
That is racist. I don't think it's black people.
Not just us. No.
They
I
do not want LGBTQ.
No, I wouldn't say the school.
Black people do not.
I wouldn't say that's black people. That's not black people.
I think it's racist white people like Ron DeSantis.
But my question is, why has this not been taught in our community amongst the Black people that lived and marched in those times, that knew Martin Luther King,
if you knew who Bayard Rustin was, raise your hand.
I know now,
but
because I'm a Morehouse man, so I know that stuff.
But I've always known.
But before then, I did not know that.
No, I knew it in high school.
But why has it not been talked about? Why do we just primarily focus on Martin Luther King? Why don't we not focus on the right hand?
Who is the we? I say it's the you.
When we talk about the president,
you are responsible for your knowledge.
The vice president too. I am responsible.
But I'm saying you're saying we, as in terms of like the community, isn't teaching this. We learn and hear what we want to learn and hear. I'm just saying like
that's not true.
We have in Atlanta, Georgia, a Bayard Rustin breakfast every MLK weekend.
Okay, but that's in Atlanta. I come from a very, very, very small, predominantly white school.
Where do you come from?
I come from Statesboro, Georgia. Okay? And so
And that's what, Bullock County?
It is, Bullock County.
Don't you come from Biloxi?
And
I do not.
And in the courthouse.
Where do you come from?
A much smaller town than Statesboro. I come from a small town called DeKalb, Mississippi, but we did have books there.
Look, but listen, the central courthouse that we have still to this day has a mascot of a Confederate soldier. And the Black people that live there don't even realize who that statue is, right? And so I come from a town where people believe what they see on TV, and they don't know about going to the public library or reading these books. So who you talk about, I didn't know about.
But that's something that is not something that is nobody's responsibility but our own.
But how would you know to go look for it if you don't even know about it?
I can't answer. All I can say is that when I read books, and I learn the information in the books.
But books when you choose to read, you hear about it, right?
If you study the March on Washington, you will learn that Bayard Rustin was the intellectual architect of the movement.
But how did you find out about that march?
When I was reading and studying about
it. And who told you about that?
No one told me. It was
so you just automatically knew about it.
It was in the history books in high school.
Children and college age people should be taught about this stuff. That it should be in the system.
Yes. Let me say this: as someone who did 17 years in public education, it is impossible when you are doing a survey of American history to cover every single person that someone thinks is relevant. Let me finish. And to be honest and fair, you do an entire movement and you survey it, right? And what happens in the survey of American history, you may spend a total of 1 week on the civil rights movement out of a whole entire year. That's all you do. The onus of then researching further that movement, if it is something that is of intellectual interest to you as a learner, falls upon the student.
However,
because you cannot say and dictate that the educational system should give Bayard Rustin specific focus as a curricular piece when there's so many other Americans.
Zach, hold on. I want to say this. I really respect Zach, obviously, because you've been an educator and you've done this for many years. And I appreciate your expertise when it relates to that matter. I do think that having an anti-deficit framework of thinking allows us to not just put the onus on the student, but it also allows us to critique the systems of oppression that exist. There are certain reasons why certain histories are not taught, and you know this as an educator. I know this as an educator in a different context. So I think for me personally, as someone who wants to get into the space of studying public policy and how legislation has been formed and why it is the way that it is from a historical context, I think about it's hard for me to not think about the reasons why the Department of Education has been changed over so many years. It is for some generations, your generation, you say you had to fall back onto the knowledge of having your grandmother take you to the polls with her and dress you up every single time to go to the polls. I didn't have that experience. I was not taught the civics education that the generations before me were able to be taught. And I think that there is something to be said about the dramatic changes of education over time. And it is from an anti-deficit framework of thinking, I cannot put the onus on just the student. I also have to say that there are systems of oppression, which I know that you know that. I'm not lecturing you, but I'm just saying that that is where my mind is.
I understand. I get that. I'm just saying that you have to look at how curricular pieces are prioritized, and then look at how it works in the course of a survey year. Mm. It's only a year. Like you only have a year to cover that material.
Yeah. So.
And they need to diversify the curriculum.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I agree.
To me, I feel like they need to highlight gay figures. Yeah,
I agree. I totally agree.
They have gay students. They need to be taught.
I agree with that.
About gay history.
I have a cousin.
Zach, as an educator, that is not something that is prioritized.
And that's what I was going to say. I have
Black history. You have to
understand, Zach.
But I don't think. But to your point, I don't think that. And to Zach's point, I don't think that that's something that is just specific to the Black community that's trying to inhibit that. I think that there are other systems that are in place that don't want us to learn about that, and we don't learn about that. That's just true.
I just want you to think about just think about this. You're saying that we want to teach. I don't know. Listen, you're saying teach gay history. What I'm saying is
included.
I think that the fact that Bayard Rustin existed is relevant. What he did for the civil rights movement is relevant.
Yes.
The fact that he was gay is relevant to some, but is that something that you want to make the focus of a curriculum? I don't know if that would be appropriate.
Because it gives someone that identifies
was Bayard Rustin gay on the test? Yes or no?
No, I don't think that's
not what we're saying.
I don't think that is something
okay, Zach.
That's not how.
Zach,
I don't think that should be a
marginalized community and how the community evolves.
I have
over
a
time.
relative.
That's what it's about.
Yes.
It wouldn't be Bayard Rustin, then it would be about.
It's not about
Stonewall.
Marsha P. Johnson, Ella Harn.
No, I'm just saying put it in the context.
It's not about who they have sex with.
Yes.
It's about the community evolving throughout history as a whole.
That should be a part of American history. That I agree with.
I have a relative that's an educator. She's been an educator for 25 years, right? She teaches 7th grade. She says now in her 7th grade teaching classes, there are students that identify as trans. There are students that identify as gay. She is still learning how to respectfully make them feel safe. But there have not been there's not been any meetings with any other educators on how to conduct themselves. We're making all the students feel safe, even not just from the teachers, but amongst their classmates.
And in some states, that's disallowed.
Yeah, and what I'm saying, what I'm saying is, I'm not saying on a test, was he gay, yes or no? But I want to educate you, let you know that you feel this way, but guess what? There are other people that are considered heroes that have done great for this community, this country, that identify just as you. That is what needs to be taught. So these people can continue to grow up, elevate from a grade to become an adult, go to college and decide whether or not they want to be a person that's going to continue to pass on a legacy to others that was done for them in the same way. Just like I learned about all these Confederate soldiers and Abraham Lincoln and all of those, I want to know about people that identify as me. I don't identify with Abraham Lincoln. I don't look like him.
You can't even put diversity and inclusion on the boards now.
That's true.
My friend who's a teacher, she had diversity and inclusion. They thought she had an agenda and told her to take it off the board.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, 20% of the class is gay. Why are the schools so anti-gay? That's why we hate trans people. The system teaches you to hate them.
That is now, Zach. I will say that is true.
They teach you to hate
the lack of the ability to show the representation of certain populations and groups of people allows us to be ignorant to them, which allows us to be in places where we hate what we do not understand.
And I said that at the very beginning.
And that is true. I think that it is also something that is very. I'm saying
none of that is gonna get fixed anytime soon.
No.
It's only because we're only going backwards. We're literally living in a time when you have one political party who is committed to ensuring that there is absolutely no diversity, equity, and inclusion mentioned, funded, or considered. They are on a hardcore press to take away the rights of all marginalized communities with a specific focus on the LGBTQ community. And in their efforts, they want to literally criminalize, and they're even talking about sterilization of trans Americans. So there is, and then you have a whole entire backlash from young Americans saying they're not going to vote for Biden under any circumstances because of #Free Palestine. So all of that to say, we're not going to get any progress being made because of the way that the system is being made. So
I refute that. I feel like that there are changes that can be made. I think that
Republicans aren't going to change anything.
Correct. But we don't have to
for the good.
Not just
we don't have to rely on
the black
Republicans
Democrats too.
And that's what I'm saying.
I have not met one black Democrat.
It's the black
Yes.
I have not met
Aaron.
Black people are so homophobic.
I have not
yes,
met
they are.
one
They are.
There isn't one black elected official.
Okay, not elected officials. I'm talking about the parents. I'm talking about the people the teachers, the administrators, the school boards. These people are highly transphobic and homophobic.
Yes, they are.
And a lot of them are black.
And not even realizing they have relatives that identify as that. That's the scary part of it.
There's a lot of work to be done. That's exactly why I want a platform and make sure that our brothers and sisters who happen to be trans are included at the table every time we have a table.